Today's guest on the Gem series is the legendary producer Khari Needlz Cain. Needlz is a multi-platinum, multi-Grammy award-winning producer that has worked with some of the biggest names in music, including Cardi B, Bruno Mars, Nicole Buss, Drake, Jeremih, Lupe Fiasco, Jeezy, Lil Wayne, 50 Cent, and so many more. He is the man behind so many tracks that all of us have come to know and love, including Just the Way You Are by Bruno Mars, which he actually won a Grammy for. This is a really unique episode because Khari invited me to come record from his spectacular home studio. And as somebody with a passion for entrepreneurship and also a passion for music, this was really a dream come true for me. Everybody, this is a truly exciting episode. You will not believe the stories Needlz has and the amazing lessons that he shares. Without further ado, here's the Needlz interview on the Gem series.
Thanks for coming on. How you doing?
Sure.
How you doing, Needlz?
Great. Welcome
you on.
Yeah, welcome to my home, my studio.
Absolutely. Yeah, for anybody who's not seeing the visual part of this, Khari has been so kind as to welcome us into his studio. Mm-hmm. I am a huge music fan. Right. I got a couple of bands, but I'm not doing anything crazy. But this is like a dream come true, getting to look around and see all of this here. So thank you so much for welcoming me into your home. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Everybody, I'm sure if you haven't heard of Needlz, he is a multi-platinum, Grammy award-winning producer. He has worked with all the names that the whole world is listening to. Literally informed, my life, the whole generation's life. Cardi B, Bruno Mars, Nicole Buss, Drake. It goes on and on and on. So, really what I wanted to talk about is, before music, what was your background? Could you just share a little bit of your story?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm from Lansing, Michigan, in the Midwest, and, middle-class family. My both of my parents were educators. And my father listened to a lot of jazz and blues in the basement, all the time. So he's like a big time record collector. I mean, he'll fill this whole room up with records, and he's a, hi-fi equipment and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And, that was just the environment I grew up in. I didn't think to, want to play any instruments or anything like that. Like my parents made us, take piano lessons and stuff like that. But I wasn't excited about it. Matter of fact, my brothers and I, we boycotted them one time saying we're not taking any more piano lessons. But it was just the fact that music was in the house. It was just subconsciously just building that taste over years. And I saw a movie when I was in high school. This movie called Juice, and one of the main characters was a DJ. Mm-hmm. And he was the coolest guy in the whole movie and whatever. So after seeing the movie, I just, I told my father I wanted to DJ. And he's like, get straight A's for, a year. And I got straight A's, and he bought me some turntables, and just started DJing in high school and in college. And that was really just, it was fun. It was a hobby. And I never thought I could make a living at it though. From there, I went to grad school at NYU because I wanted to learn more about the business side of the music industry. Yeah, and I slowly stopped DJing and started producing, once again, just as a hobby. Mm-hmm. And one thing kind of led to another in New York. And I'm skipping some steps, but at the end of the day, I interned for Puffy's label.
Oh,
for Bad Boy.
Bad Boy.
Yeah. And they found out that my hobby was making beats. And so they told me to play them some music. They liked it, and they started sending it around, and kind of the rest is history.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
So did it feel like you're just moving at lightning speed going through all of this?
Man, it's so much stuff happened in between all those different steps. But once again, it was kind of I never grew up saying, I want to do this as a living. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Back then, producing was rare. There was only a select few people that had the money to afford the equipment.
Sure. Yeah.
And so it's just something that kind of fell in my lap. And as a part of my internship at NYU was, I had to go out into the field and see what, an A&R would do, and what those what that environment was like. And for me, I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was kind of like a lot of ass kissing, a lot of like backstabbing, a lot of politics, and a lot of being fake. And I mean, you know, that's one part of the industry that you have to know how to maneuver. But for me at the time, I was like, let me just keep making some beats. And see what happens. Yeah.
That's great. That's I think that's, you know, so cool too that you're like, you just were able to trust your instincts and really go after something that, you know, isn't the traditional route, right?
100%, yeah.
Like, I mean, I got a lot of friends who produce on the side or anything like that. And I mean, it's like hard to get out there.
Oh
also,
my God.
Yeah. You know, for me, I would love to hear a little bit about, so were your parents always just like, no matter what you do, just super supportive of stuff?
Well, yes and no. So, you know, when I started DJing, you know, my father he was actually really hyped to get me turntables to the point.
Yeah. What kind of turntables?
Yeah, they were, okay, so I started out with these really cheap Gemini turntables. And, you know, he was just like, these are some starter ones just to see if you're going to take it serious.
Yeah.
And so after a while, I was practicing all the time, and he saw me down there in the basement along with him, just practicing. And the big thing for him was like to kind of like level up my equipment. So he took me to J&R World in New York, which was like a big deal. Like, and I don't think it's there anymore, but we had to buy these Technics 1200s.
Ooh.
Yeah. And those are like, you know, the top of the line. Yeah. The go-to turntables. And so he was definitely supported with that. Originally I went to Florida A&M for my undergrad, and I was majoring in business. But once again, it just wasn't in my personality to kind of fit that mold where I'm.
Yeah. And was that kind of what you were trying to do whenever you went there initially for business? And I think I saw marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. But the school I went to is a really good business school. It's called, it was the School of Business at Florida A&M. Was at the time, it was one of the top ranked business schools in the nation. And it was very, you know, wear your suit, shake hands like this, give your introduction like this. You know, it was very like, and it just didn't fit my personality. Yeah.
And, you know, I feel like that's the thing. A lot of people just kind of follow this path. And, you know, if you're living lukewarm, right? Like, how are you going to be great?
Yeah. You know? And that's kind of, I was just going through the motions. And I think one time I remember I was, it was like my junior year. And I just remember being in my room listening to this new Wu-Tang album. And I literally like broke down in tears because it was just so good. And it was just like, I have to do music.
Yeah.
So from this moment on, I'm going to pursue it. And for me, it was like, I have to get out of the school. I have to find my way to New York, where everybody at the time was in New York.
Yeah.
So I transferred to Florida State, which allowed me to graduate earlier.
Oh, cool.
And so I did that, and I got to New York, and that's kind of how I made things happen. You just gotta be in that environment.
Yeah, going down that's something I hear a lot is, you know, your career path should be looked at as a bunny trail.
Yeah.
Versus something that's very like linear, right?
Yeah.
And
well,
I don't know. Like,
it's really interesting. But when I told my parents when I was at FAM originally, and I told them I wanted to leave the business school, they just were like, I don't say they weren't with it. I just remember that conversation.
Yeah.
It was really like shocking to them because it's not a traditional thing. It's not like normal. It's not the normal way for a kid to be successful. It's a lot harder path in their eyes. But I think me telling them that if I were to transfer, I would get in-state tuition. I think they're like, It was a little bit of that, but then shortly after, they really, really, you know, they've always had my back. You know, they've always really jumped in, and they've probably been my biggest supporters over there.
Yeah. You know, I mean, and that's the thing. I feel like even with my parents, they're like, hey, I know how my life worked out, and they're just trying to pull from their own experiences and all of that to be like, I just want you to be as happy and successful as possible.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly. Yeah. It's funny because I'm going through all this again with my daughter. I have a senior, and she's applying for schools, and, you know, she wants to be in the music business just like me.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, well, it's kind of something you have to jump into. Going to school, I think, definitely helps in regards to building your network of friends.
Mhm.
Obviously, the curriculum, depending on what school you go to.
Sure.
But it's also like the location of the school, what opportunities you have outside of the school, and you know what you do with your spare time and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting. I'm really curious to see where she's gonna land out and what's gonna be her path.
No,
You know, this thing.
that's gotta be kind of exciting too. I mean,
It is.
like you can kind of like put her on to so many different things.
Absolutely.
I imagine, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. So she didn't get into her dream school, which is NYU, which I'm pissed about. But
Yeah, what the hell?
yeah, I know, right? It's a really hard school to get into. You know,
It is.
it's like
It is.
really it's like probably the school she was applying for was you know, yeah, people come from all over the world
Mhm.
and so we're like pivoting and trying to figure out what's the next best thing. But like I said, everybody's path is different. So we'll
Yeah,
figure it out.
truly.
Yeah.
So what were some of the kind of big obstacles that you faced coming up on this path?
Yeah. I mean, oh man, so many. I mean, being broke is a large
Truly,
part. That's a large part of it early on. I mean, it's really something to where, like I said, I was interning at Bad Boy, and they turned my music into this label, Def Jam, and the A&R at the time, and the person who heard my music, A&R'd for Method Man, Redman, and DMX. Right.
Yeah.
So like she would keep telling me, yo, just keep coming up, bringing me stuff, bring me music or whatever.
Yeah.
And I would bring her stuff and I would, and she would like it. And one day she said, hey, I want to manage you.
Mm.
And then right off the bat.
Tell me about that feeling.
Yeah, no, I can remember like, I remember being in that office and right off 8th Street and just being, it just seemed surreal. You know what I mean? It was just surreal because once again, I'm walking in and Jay-Z's coming down the hallway and, you know, this is Def Jam at the prime, you know what I mean? So like, just to make it upstairs in that building was just like, you had your sticker and you felt so accomplished because as you're going up, it's the Rough Riders coming down or it's Murder Inc. It was just everybody at the time. So, so right off the bat, maybe after she wanted to manage me, like maybe within a month, she got me 2 placements on this Rough Riders compilation or whatever. And I thought I made it. You know what I mean? I was still in school. I think I was in my senior year. I was still in school and I got my first check was like for $5,000. My second one was like $7,500. And I just thought I was rich.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? At the time, I'm a broke kid. And I thought, and more than that, I thought it was going to keep coming. You know what I mean? I thought every month I was going to get stuff like this. So it went from me, you know, having that little $12,000, you know, spending that money on a big 27-inch TV at the time. That was like big. So I had a big Super Bowl party and I just thought I was balling. And it's just like, I didn't see another check for another like 6 to 8 months. And I was like dead broke. You know what I mean? So it's like, that taught me a lesson in just how it works and how you have to stretch your, you know, budget your money and make things work. And yeah, it was a grind, but my manager was just like, just keep making beats, keep your head down, just keep making stuff, and she's gonna get the placements. And yeah, maybe like a year after that, I got, I remember this, like I'm driving, I think it was a Brooklyn Bridge coming back, and my manager calls me and she's like, G-Unit. And I'm like, that's like 50 cents little tag at the time. And he was like the biggest, like he was huge. You know what I'm saying? And so
what year is this?
This is 2005, 2005. Yeah.
On top of the world.
Yeah, on top of the world. Yeah. So he's coming off his first album, going into the second album. And she was like, yeah, they picked 2 songs, and one of them ended up being a song called Piggy Bank, was at the time was like a big like diss record in New York, and everybody's like Hot 97, everybody's talking about this record, and it was really like cool times back then.
Yeah. I'm sure you were, I mean, I feel like in the music industry, obviously I'm sure everybody has this, but we all do a little music here. So, but I feel like there's so many intense highs.
Oh my God.
And low.
It's definitely made me a more kind of like even keel person.
Yeah.
Because I've been through so much up, so much down. So like, you know, we had our run in New York, you know, G Unit, Jada Kiss, all kinds of people, you know, Redman. And then music started to change. The South started blowing up. So like T.I. and they started taking over, and you could see the energy shift in New York. Like they didn't have it on lock like they used to. Yeah. And things started slowing down for me. I wasn't getting as many placements and things like that. And so, you know, I was like, look, we can't sit here and just go broke. You know what I mean? Like we're going to have to move, just like I moved to New York because everything was there. We're going to have to move to Atlanta. And we did that, like dead broke. Like we came down. It's funny. We had, my wife and I, we're packed with our 2 young children, and we're thinking we're moving into this house that we put a deposit on. Come to find out, we got scammed.
Oh shit! Are you serious?
Yes, we got scammed. So like,
you're like, welcome to it.
Yeah, exactly. No, so we literally had to drive past the house that we thought we were going to be moving into, and we had to live at my wife's house in Jacksonville, Florida for like 6 months, just trying to waiting on old checks to come in and trying to piece things together. So that was like probably one of our lowest moments to where, you know, it was kind of like, man, I don't know if I got it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to support a family with this anymore. Music has changed. I have to adapt. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but it took a while. It was definitely, you know, it was good that we had family, you know what I mean? But finally a check, one of the industry checks, and they take so long, you know what I mean?
How long does it usually take?
And what's crazy is you'll give the people the music and the song will be in stores and on, you know, on the radio, you're but like, you still, I made that. Can I get my second half? You know, so it's like, you know, 6 to 8 months, sometimes a year. It's really crazy. So we were waiting on one of these checks. I got the check. We moved to Atlanta, and we rented a house, and I just slowly started to grind and meet people, and it was definitely really, really, really slow, really hard, really a struggle for another year or so, and then I got a call for a friend of mine. He's like, "Look, man, I need you to go to the studio and play some beats for Lil Wayne." And he's like, I'm like, of course, yes, I'm going.
Like, say less.
Yes, I'm going to head up. Exactly. So now this is CD time, right? You're still making CDs. And so I had to burn my music on a CD. Yeah. And so I went down there to meet. It wasn't Lil Wayne. It was like Lil Wayne's right hand guy. So I went down to, I think it was Hot Beats over there, kind of like in Midtown. And I just remember pulling up and parking and waiting for the guy. And I just remembered the Sharpie that I had to write my name on the CD. It like wore out. So I couldn't write my name on the CD. Yeah. So I ended up giving this guy a blank, or a barely readable CD. So he has the music, but he has no idea where the beats came from.
It's funny. I thought you were about to say it. So I got out a needle.
No.
Scratched it in. And that's why I have needles.
That's
I was like, what?
Yeah,
no.
This is how I get needles. No, that's a whole nother thing. It's interesting. We'll definitely get into that. But so I gave him the CD, and maybe like 3 weeks later, people are saying like, Lil Wayne just leaked a whole bunch of songs on the internet, and maybe like 5, I gave him like 10 beats. 5 of those beats he leaked on the internet, which back then wasn't a good thing.
Well, no, yeah.
Yeah, because it was just
I
like,
remember when that happened.
yeah.
I was in college.
Yeah.
I was in college and everything leaked.
Yeah. And he leaked all of these songs, and I'm like, dang, I'm not gonna get paid.
Mm-hmm.
There was one beat on there that Busta Rhymes had picked or something like that. And so Busta Rhymes ends up screaming on my manager because they already picked the beat and all this stuff. But I'm just thinking like, man, I'm not going to get paid for all these good beats. Like, these are, you know what I'm saying?
Hours invested and, you know. Yeah.
But one of those beats ended up like taking off. It slowly started to build momentum, and it had Drake on it. So it was a song with Lil Wayne and Drake, and it was called "I'm Going In."
Oh,
yeah. And so
that's a classic.
Yeah,
right? That's a classic.
Yeah. So it just started picking up legs. You know what I'm saying? And it just kind of took off. They put Jeezy on it, and that was my first big record in Atlanta, and that really kind of helped set the foundation for you know, really what was to come next, which was, you know, all kinds of other big records.
Yeah. Dang.
That's it.
I mean, well, people say that. Like people say, "I'm going in."
I'm going in.
Like still today, like
absolutely.
And that song is such a classic.
Yeah.
You know, something that stands out to me though is you're like so relentless. Like how did you kind of build up that mindset to get to the point where you're like, I don't care if I'm broke, I'm just gonna go to my next thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Or
whatever.
I just knew what I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I knew I didn't want to work a 9 to 5. I know I didn't want to have a boss. And I don't know. I just knew I had a passion for it. It's something I love to do. And I knew that I could make money. I you know, 3 or 4 years prior, I was making good money doing it.
Yeah.
So I knew I had the capability to do it. It's just like sometimes just meeting the right people, the right opportunity and stuff like that, and just being prepared for that opportunity. So, yeah, I never really gave myself any plan Bs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just like, just keep going. And, you know, luckily my wife had a pretty good job, and she kind of held us down for years. You know? So it'd be kind of like ups and downs where it's like, you know, I'll get a couple big records and I'm like, oh, you can quit. And then I'll go broke or things will slow down. And then, you know, it's just kind of that. It's a relationship. It's a marriage. You know what truly, I mean? And so, so yeah, I really wasn't stable until, until maybe 2009, 2010, where I was doing, so prior to this, when I was kind of like in the New York days, I did a lot of stuff with this rapper, Lupe Fiasco.
Lovely.
Yeah. So I was on his first album, and we were really cool. We used to, you know, do a lot of stuff for his mixtapes and all kinds of stuff. But I was working on some stuff for him, and I wanted him to because he started to go from underground to like a little more commercial. So I wanted to do something a little more commercial for him. And one of the first times I really collabed with somebody was a good friend of mine. His name is Cassius. He was in the studio, and at the time, I didn't know he played keys or sang, or you know, I was just like a rapper. He was just kind of like hanging around.
Yeah.
And we were just in the studio, just kind of messing around, and you know, he had given me a chord progression via the phone one day. You know what I mean? And because I don't really play keys like that. So, and he knows that, so he kind of hummed the melody line on the phone, and I played it, or whatever. And then later on, he ended up being in the studio with me, and he came up with this hook, and it was called "Just the Way You Are." And I did that song for Lupe, and I wanted it to feature Adam Levine.
Whoa!
Yeah, that was my goal.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. So that was my goal for that song. So we pitched it to Atlantic, his record label, and they really loved the record, you know, and so, you know, months have went by, and come to find out Lupe and his label were kind of like button heads. And then just things went radio silent for a while. And he's like, you know what? I don't think Lupe's going to do the song. Well, first what happened was we're going to try, instead of Adam Levine, we're going to try this new kid, Bruno Mars on the hook. And I'm like, I don't want Bruno Mars. Who's Bruno Mars, man? I don't want to.
So funny to think about, right?
Yeah,
exactly. You didn't know him like that.
Yeah. And it was like, I was like, I want Adam Levine, but they was like Bruno Mars, so they Bruno cut the hook, and Lupe was supposed to do the verse, but he just never did it. And then things went silent for a while. I kept working on the song. Yeah. For a month, I worked on that same song, and I got a call, and his A&R, his name's Aaron Bayshuk. He's like, look, man, I'm going to change your life. And I'm like, whatever. He's like, you have Bruno Mars' first single, you know, Just the Way You Are. And I was like, cool. You know what I mean? It wasn't, you didn't know it was going to go on to do what it did. But I heard that they sent me the record. To this day, I got to find it. I got to find they sent me the record with a watermark saying this is owned by, so it'll play for a little bit every like 10 seconds. It will say this is owned by Atlantic Records. So for me not to leak it or whatever. But yeah, it ended up being a huge record. Number one in the world, sold, I don't know, almost 15 million records and stuff like that. Yeah.
I mean, that's huge.
Like,
there's nobody who doesn't know that song.
Yeah.
You know, like, whenever you first heard the hook, were you like, like, did you have like a eureka moment? Like, oh yeah, that's it? Or
when it all came together, I was like, yeah, this sounds cool. It feels right. Yeah. You know what I mean? But never did I think it was gonna.
The weird thing with music too is it's so subjective. So even if you think something is amazing, you might release it and it's just like a total flop or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So. What's crazy is as musicians, every night, you got to think there's millions of kids every night that we go through this process of making a beat or a song. Yeah. Thinking the song is the best song we've ever made or best beat we've ever made, to dreaming what we're going to get when we get the money from this number one song, to nobody liking the song, to it going nowhere. And for us to have to do that night after night after night, it's just like a very, you because you love it, you want to keep going and doing it, but it's definitely something that will just humble you. You know what I mean? Yeah, because there's so many people, especially now because technology's allowed so many people to have access to the equipment. Oh yeah. It's very, very competitive. And there's so many people every night, like I said, have that feeling like, this is the one. I'm telling you, this is it. This is the hit. And no one, and it goes nowhere. It's an interesting thing that I wonder if, you know, the people that own Spotify know. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's a lot of people. It's real stuff.
Yeah, I wonder, you know, and something that I always think about, and I've been like, even thought like, oh, I would love to ask someone like, you know, like you about this, is whenever you make music, you know, there's that phase where you're listening to it and you're like, oh, this sucks. Oh yeah. And then you're like, oh, this might be something cool. And you go through the motions with it. Yeah. What do you do to
break out of it?
Yeah, break out. What's your process like with mindset for that kind of stuff, you know?
It's tough, man, because inspiration, I just read this quote the other day. It's like, inspiration will find you, but it has to find you working or something like that. So you have to really put those hours in, and you really have to really shoot in the gym. You know, you have to really put those shots up in order for it to come. So that's one part of it. You can't really stop working completely. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes, for me, there's been a few things. For me, it's like getting new sounds. So I may stop just making music for a week and just gather and, you know, really find a whole bunch of new sounds that I can start to make new stuff on the following week. Collaboration is cool. And collaboration is really big these days, which I think is good and bad, honestly. I think it's good in a sense that you're getting a kind of hybrid or a melted kind of two people, two heads better than one idea. But I don't know that, because there's so much collaboration, I don't know that we're getting these genuine ideas, right? Like these genuine unique ideas.
I've thought about that because I feel like if you haven't taken the time to truly develop your sound, there's levels of compromise that kind of come with that collaboration.
Yes.
You know, even just in a social kind of thing, you're like, man, you don't want to hurt somebody's feeling. Be like, yeah, these 808s suck.
Yeah. You know what? And
whatever it is. Yeah.
And what's really interesting is that's the big thing in the music industry now is like with publishers and managers, they say, "Oh, this guy makes good beats. This guy makes good beats.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put them together and we'll get a super beat." And it just doesn't work like that. You know what I mean? Like, what, you know, they'll throw people in a room. We'll meet for the first time. I don't know what your strengths are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You know, we might use different equipment. I don't know exactly, you know, what our approach should be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like you said, it's a lot of compromise. And I think in my position as a producer, anyway, there's a lot of knowing how to tell people it is whack without saying it outright.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, let's pivot to this, or let's try doing this, or let's switch vibes up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the mindset of working with a small group, a whole bunch. You know what I mean? As opposed to work with a new person every day.
Mm-hmm.
I like knowing what to expect from the songwriters. And a lot of times I use the same songwriters because I know how to speak through my songwriter to the artist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I can say, look, I'm looking for something melodic, but I still want to be able for the artist to be able to explain that she can actually sing. So we need long notes for the pre, and then we need to go back to something melodic on a hook. Like, and I can say that to my writer and he like, got it. You know what I mean? Because we work for, you know, so many times. So I'm along those lines. I think, you know, if you look on records now, there's like 16 people on one record. And, you know, it sometimes it's good. Sometimes you can come up with some great stuff, but I just feel like the level of uniqueness nowadays, we're missing some of that also because of social media. Because everybody can see what everybody else is doing and everybody is copying
replicating
So to go back to your question, I find myself in that being stuck place all the time. You know what I mean? It's like when I started, I was always inspired. Like, oh man, the Neptunes, those beats are crazy. Kanye, those beats are crazy. Just Blaze, all these people with their individual sounds were just something that was just so inspiring and inspiring for me to like, oh, I'm going to have my Needlz sound. I'm going to have this, you know what I mean? But I don't really get that as much. I don't get those wow moments. Like this beat is crazy. You know what I mean? To make me run and I got to beat this or type this.
Yeah.
It's more so I'm at a point in my career where I feel like I have to be the one inspiring people or taking chances and doing stuff that makes me happy instead of waiting for somebody else to inspire me or blending in. Like I have to be the one,
be the thought leader.
Yes. Yeah. And I feel like I can be, or one of them, you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
yeah.
And, I would say hands down.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, you've informed entire generations, you know, like we're joking around a little bit about, you know, the song I'm Going In and everything. But I mean, it's literally like all of these songs are just like plugged in growing up, you know? So I don't know. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, man. I like to think, I guess part of the story that I was curious about too is, you know, I'd love to hear about maybe this specifically hone in on that season of life where you're in the music business, school at NYU and you're doing A&R. Yeah. Like what were you thinking about around then? Cause like, I know A&R is like, that's, you know, it's still hard to do, but it's a traditional route, a little more traditional.
It is. So back then A&Rs were really the glue. They really put the right artist with the right producer and they also sequenced the album. They made sure the album gave you a whole experience. You know what I mean? It wasn't just, now it kind of feels like just a group of songs. You know what I mean? There's no interludes. There's no feel. Like after you get done listening to the album, it doesn't leave you with an impression as much as it used to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's songs or there's albums here and there. Also because we're a singles based kind of society now, and that because when CDs died and we went to MP3s and streaming and stuff like that, people had the opportunity to just pick the song they like and just listen, you know what I mean? And that kind of, to me, it kind of ruined or the whole listening experience. But A&Rs were a big deal. Once again, though, when I started interning, like for the first month, all I did was get people coffee. I guess it's paying dues, but at the time, I'm a little older too, because I had already graduated college.
Yeah.
I was a grad student, so I'm like 22, 23, you know what I mean? But some of the interns were my age, like not some of the interns, but some of the other like A&Rs were young, my age in a sense. You know what I'm saying?
So you're like,
I'm kissing ass to this thing, you know what I mean? But you have to pay your dues. You have to be, I think politics, I think you just got to be a cool person, a cool people person. And it was, like I said, it was just tough for me to conform to anybody's anything. Yeah. I don't know. I can't even really explain it. Yeah.
Yeah. A term that I've always heard is like, whenever you want to really work for yourself, you're almost unemployable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, I have a vision.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's because it's not really anything, it's not to brag about, but I never really had a job. Maybe while I was in college, I think I worked at in the mail room or something like that. Yeah. But I think once you get that taste of kind of doing it yourself, whether it's hard, you just kind of, it's hard to be in any other kind of situation, So, So for me, maybe I could have humbled myself a little bit more to pay more dues and, I don't know, but at the time it just wasn't for me. And I really, really, once again, I was really, really inspired to make music, as opposed to be on the business side of it. I was just like, every night I remember, because my classes, because it was grad school, there were night classes. Yeah. So all during the day, I'm making beats. Dang. And then going to school and then get out around like 7 or 8. Come home, make beats until like 3 a.m, go to sleep for a little bit, wake up, make beats. Like it was just a lot. It's almost like it was being in grad school really set me up because I had a lot of time to just really, get good at my craft.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Mm-hmm. So what was it like whenever you got discovered at Bad Boy Records where they're like, oh, you make beats? And how did that,
I mean, first of all, I remember, my first interview with them. Like I said, prior to that, I was at a really traditional school of business where, like I said, you got to wear your suit. You know what I mean? So I went there for my interview with Bad Boy with a suit on. And like, I think I had a briefcase and then my resume, and they were like laughing at me because they were like in jeans and t-shirts. And I'm like, I think they respected that I kind of took it serious.
Oh yeah.
So that's how I got the job. And the guy I worked for, his name was Damon Eden, a really cool dude. And this other lady named Francesca Sparrow. But yeah, he came to me. He was just saying like, look, man, this is like late one night after work. Look, what do you do outside of interning for us? Because everybody has a hustle. Everybody here has a side hustle. Yeah. And I was just like, I just started making beats. You know what I mean? And they're cool. You want to hear them? You know what I mean? And I let him hear them. And he's like, yeah, this is pretty good. So I work for the part of the company that managed the Hitmen, which was Puffy's producer. So it's like Stevie J and D Dot and Mario Winans and all these cats that made all these like Biggie's album, 112, Faith, all of the Bad Boy stuff. So
that's history.
Yes, it's history. Yeah. So what was cool for me was one of my job responsibilities was to like organize their beat CDs and their DATs and their music to send out to other labels and to disperse internally.
Yeah.
So I got a chance to hear what they were working on, you know, as I was an intern. So that really let me know like what kind of level of music I had to make. And I think that helped me get better. So I'm listening to like Mario Winans and like Stevie J's like beat CDs.
Yeah.
Going home like, yo, I think I could beat this or I could do something like
yeah.
this. Yeah. So it was that experience, you know, they would send me to the, you know, go to Sam Ash, get Mario Winans a tambourine, take it up to him. And, you know what I'm saying? Like go to, you know, and so I spent some time at Puffy's studio, Daddy's house. And just seeing everybody, just seeing like people that you hear on the radio walk past you.
Yeah. Who are some of the artists you got to interact with a little bit early on where you're like,
yeah, I mean, for me, a lot. For me at the time, it was the producers.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. There was a good part of time that I hung out with Kanye for a while, which was cool. I met him through my friend 88 Keys, and it was cool because you know when we came up, sounds like drum sounds and stuff like that, they weren't like ready available like on like they are now. Like
you can go to like Splice.
You go everything. You go to Splice and get everything. Yeah. But back then we almost had to rob somebody or steal to get sounds.
Get a drum machine or something.
Well, not only that, but it's like the thing was to get in good with the engineers that had the sounds that such and such used on this app. You know what I mean? It's like getting sounds was a big deal. So when Kanye and I were hanging out, like we traded drum sounds or whatever. And I remember he came to my apartment and I just got this new MPC 4000, this drum machine. I barely knew how to use, but I'm like giving him like all my best. Yeah, I'm giving him like all my best sounds or whatever. And then I think the day later, I met him at some other studio and he gave me a floppy disk of his songs that we were trading or whatever. So I gave him like some, and I'll go back home and take this sounds crazy. It's a floppy disk, put it in my MPC. And the sounds he gave me were so trash that he played. He gave me some trash sounds, man. So
and you're I just gave you my best.
Gave you my best drums, bro, and you just gave me some trash. But it was cool. I mean, just honestly, I think we hung out just for a couple of days or whatever. But it was cool seeing even him like at the time. And he has a documentary I saw right now. It's funny seeing a documentary because I hung out with him a couple of times during that time when he was coming up in New York. So for me, seeing him living in Hoboken, he had this apartment with a pool table in it. It was just super inspiring.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, he was driving his Benz, but he wasn't like, it looked like he was rich, but he wasn't like rich. He was still living kind of check to check as well. So, you know, to the point where he was like, do y'all got money to get across the bridge? Y'all, you know what I'm saying? But we're going to a session where he goes into a room where with these artists or that he's working with, and I just see like, I don't know, it had to be like 20 grand in cash on the table that he was getting that night. So it's like just to see all that stuff. I mean, working with, I don't know, 50, Young Buck, all those cats. It was really dope. Yeah.
No, so was the Kanye era? Was that was like producer era?
This was
pre like college dropout.
Yeah, this is producer era. One thing that's always been cool for me, like he's always kind of helped out. Like there was an artist that I was working with. It was an R&B artist, and we were trying to get Kanye to do a verse. Yeah, and he did it. Yeah, so I have this like really early Kanye verse, and his jaw was still messed up from the car accident. Oh yeah. So you can so he always looked out, and like I said, he was more so of an inspiration just to see that this dude is, I think he was like a year younger than me or something like that, and he's like doing it You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm seeing his songs on the radio. And so, yeah, it was a lot of that. Just seeing people that you idolize and you're like rubbing shoulders with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, that's really, really cool. I mean, 50 Cent too, I gotta imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, was along the way where did you pick up any kind of like wisdom from some of these folks, or was it more just observing it and living it? And
it was like living it. Like I remember being like, selling my first beat or whatever to the Rough Riders.
Yeah.
So the Rough Riders, they're pretty like a hardcore group of like, they're like hardcore.
Yeah,
like everybody from the management
truly.
to the artists to everybody. And I remember going into, they were like they were about to start mixing my record, right? And I'm young, you know what I mean? And the engineer, he was doing these things called drops, where the music would drop out while, the rapper's rapping, and you'll do a drop, whatever. And so I'm just so into the music, and and I'm like, I just jump up and tell the engineer, no, you got to do it like this. You can do it like this. And then everybody like turns around and looks at me like, why don't you go sit down somewhere? There's like a whole bunch of like gay, like it was, yeah. So I mean, you just kind of got to learn your place early on. And then as you get more established, you get to say more things and your voice becomes, more powerful in rooms and you get more respect and things like that. So so many life lessons along the way. I mean, even, but I will say this, a big part of one of the mistakes I feel like I made in my profession was I was working all the time, like in my house, working so much that I would make music for people without being in the studio with them. Right. Cause it's hard. People think it's easy. Like you just start out as a producer and then all of a sudden you're in the studio with Mariah Carey or something like that. It doesn't work like that. You have to like pay your dues. So it was hard for me to get in the studio with them. So oftentimes I would meet the people after the fact. You know what I mean? Like I met Bruno like a year later.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang.
You know what I'm saying? And I shake their hands. They don't know who the hell I am until I say, hey, I'm Needlz. And they're like, oh, you changed my life. You know what I mean? That type of stuff. So, but I think early on, and even still now, I think I'm a homebody to a certain extent. But you really have to kind of get out there, show your face. People have to see you, and you have to touch hands, and people have to really know who you are, because it's really out of sight, out of mind in this industry. That's why you see so many people just bragging and boasting and putting, they got their car and their chain.
Yeah, you gotta flex a little bit.
You gotta flex because people. It's sad, but some people respect that stuff. So so.
Well, something that I always was kind of curious about, reading about your story and is, you've always stuck with the producer route. Were you ever tempted to go to the artist side of things, or like,
it's funny you asked that. No. I suck. I'm not a good rapper, but I just know how things are supposed to go. And I think that's because I was a DJ for a while. Like DJing is like real time. It's like a real time reaction, and that's something that really, really is something that I feel like has helped me, because you can play a record and have the crowd go crazy and everybody loves you, but the next record you play, if it's whack, everybody will turn and be like, "Oh, this is whack."
You lose them
you lose them. You know what I mean? So just,
or if the transition's bad.
Oh my God, transitions. There's so many things when it comes to, and this was a fault of mine. Same thing with DJing, and I went to school in Florida where, the DJs back then, they're like they're mixing and stuff, but they're always on the mic. Shout out to this. Give up where my ladies at. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I was never like that. I'm just DJing. I'm just literally like this. You know what I mean?
I like when the music speaks first.
That was my thing. But then, this was a kind of a life changing moment in a sense, where I was like, man, I have to switch it up, or I have to switch professions. So I went to like some step show or something like this, right? And they say this guy is DJing. I never heard of the guy or whatever, right? So I'm sitting in the crowd waiting for this performance to happen, and the DJ walks in, right?
Yeah.
The DJ walks in with like 6 girls that escort him down, and he's like,
it's a show.
It's a show.
Yeah.
He gets on the stage and he's like, yo, where am I? Yeah, first of all, on the stage, he has this big sign, you know, with his name or whatever.
Yeah.
Just like, and he's just all in the mic and the crowd is going crazy. And I'm just seeing this big performance. And that was a young DJ Khaled.
What?
Yeah. This is in Florida. So it was a young DJ Khaled. And I was like, this guy has it down. Like he has the whole marketing piece down. He has the, you know, the charisma. He has all the style. And I was like, man, I don't know if that's me per se. You know what I mean? But it was just something that it was just like, you really have to give people a show and you have to be an entertainer.
Yeah.
You know? Producing kind of allowed me to be me as far as like my personality. I can work. I don't care for the spotlight. You know what I mean? I'm in it to be creative and to inspire people and also to make money. I don't necessarily need to be in the front of anybody. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of why this kind of fits me. But even now, it's the same thing. Like you have to, the big thing now is you have to have a tag on your record. So people know that this is your record. This is your record. And I'm still to me, it's kind of corny, but it's kind of the thing that people do. Just like, hey, I did this. Hey, everybody look at me. I make beats. And
then creating a persona of your own.
It's like,
That's why I asked about the artist thing. Cause like when I see like Pierre or something like that, you know, like he's starting to do, Pierre Bourne does his own stuff too. And it's really good, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now I'm transitioning to more like, I have my artist. I have a new label that I'm forming. Name of the company is ACG.
Great.
We have 3 artists right now. And it's an opportunity for me to be creative, but through that label, I'm also going to be doing like instrumental albums and stuff that's catered more around me. And if I'm not the person that's saying, hey, look at me, I got to have somebody next to me doing more content saying, you know, he did this. Did you know he did this? And all this stuff.
And that's something I think is really cool about what you're doing is, I mean, I think in any good position, ideally you get to lift somebody else up.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the role of a producer in my mind.
Absolutely.
Know? It's like, how do I mean, maybe you can tell me a little bit about your philosophy.
Well, it's definitely managing personalities in the room. You know what I mean? I've worked with arrogant songwriters. I've worked with, you know, because the way it typically works on a day-to-day for me, I have my engineer who's normally here, and then I'll have a songwriter, and we'll say, hey, we're going to work on some songs for Rihanna, right? And so we'll maybe listen to some old stuff, but then also say, you know, let's go in this direction or whatever. And so we'll typically make a song. For me, the big thing is guiding not necessarily writing with the songwriter, but challenging the songwriter to make a big sounding song. So if I think that if it's a small song or a small thinking song that's about, you know, my watch, you know what I mean? It's like, that's cool, but not too many people, not the masses aren't going to gravitate to that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, it's more so songs about love songs. I always push my songwriters. They always work, man. Pretty much all my biggest records from Just the Way You Are, Selfish, by P&B Rock, Cardi B, Ring, you know, pretty much all my like number 1 records are like love songs. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm really I always try to push for that. But then once again, that's just the dynamic of the everyday. But then when you have an artist in here, you kind of got to check the temperature of the artist, see what direction they want to go. One, I have to make a beat or something that they like. Yeah. Then the songwriter has to write a song. It's so many. You're the captain of the ship. Yeah. You know what I mean? Even telling the engineer kind of like how you want it to sound, you really have to be able to articulate that, and without hurting people's feelings, without you got to motivate people. So it's a lot of it's a lot more than just hitting buttons. At least where I am now. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of moving parts, and
For sure.
so it sounds like you do have a pretty big team then now. That
Yeah.
you're with. Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's, like I said, the engineer on staff. I got a partner with the label, three artists. At one point earlier this year, we had a ton of like overhead, but we realized that this is a marathon, being a small company, and breaking artists. It's really being consistent and
Totally.
And more than anything, it's just being consistent, creative, and you just have to have good music too. You know what I mean? So it's a pretty decent, it's a small size operation, but we have plans to grow. I'm building a studio up the street, which is going to house a lot of what they're doing, as well as, I got all kinds of plans for that studio. So, this is just like, I thought I had a studio before this, and this was supposed to just be temporary, but it ended up been here for a year.
Hey, I gotta say, I'm like, this is great over here. So I can't even imagine how amazing the studio is going to be.
Yeah. I want to see if I have a time to show you guys. It's like 5 minutes.
We'll definitely go check it out. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So I want to hear a little bit about like peak of success moment.
Yeah.
Like you Bruno Mars, all this is rolling in, kind of like, where's your head out?
I think for me, one of the kind of cool moments was, we moved to Atlanta, like we barely made it up to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And then, we have young kids. So then we moved again for us, it was an apartment, which is kind of humbling, for us coming from a house that we had just built to being damn near homeless to a rental house now to an apartment, but we want our kids to go to a good school district.
Yeah.
So it was, one cool moment was like my daughter, oldest daughter, she used to always go to her friend's house. She used to always love playing at her friend's house. It had this huge house in Brookhaven, right? And, it was funny because I was like, man, I don't know. This is before Just the Way You Are, actually. I was like, I don't know if we would ever be able to afford anything like that. I was like, must be nice. What I mean? And my wife just loved the house. And so maybe 2 or 3 years passed. And, my wife's always talking about this house.
Yeah.
And I produced Just the Way You Are. The money starts rolling in, and come to find out, it went from us like really liking the house to us buying the house off that money. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying?
You're like, what?
Yeah, like, whoa, this is crazy. I'm in the house that we just thought was so unattainable.
Yeah.
And it's been so much. I mean, one thing for me, my wife is just such a big dreamer and such a person that's like, yo, we can do it. We could do this. We could do everything. We could she just wants to do everything.
She's an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
too, right?
and my wife's an entrepreneur as well.
Yeah.
So she's opened up a few boutiques, and she just opened up her new location in Emmett Park.
Dang.
So we're both living our dreams, just chasing our dreams. We never really settled, and it's been a lot because you're trying to raise a family, and you're moving in and out the house. So that was a cool moment. I mean, I think that song was like song of the year, whenever that was, I don't know, 2012 or something like that. That was a cool moment. Just to be, being at the Grammys.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, what are the Grammys like?
Grammys was cool because, we were sitting on the floor and just seeing everybody. Just seeing everybody that you were competing against, seeing everybody that you look up to, and everybody having their own little entourages. But you still, because you've been in the industry for so long, a little bit of people here, some people here. So it's that's cool. But I think probably my best, or one of my favorite moments of my career was really when I first started, and that first placement. Still talking about that Rough Riders placement.
Yeah.
And I was living in Harlem, and it was maybe, I don't know, like 2 a.m, and I'm just like walking the street of Harlem, and all of a sudden this car drives by blasting the song I produced.
Whoa.
And I was just like, oh, that's how I made it. Like nobody else, it felt like I was the only person outside at the time.
Yeah.
And I was just going crazy, like, yo, that's my song. That's my song. You know what I mean? And that to me is something that I just, hearing somebody else just blasting your music for the first time is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that is so cool. Because like, you know, I think as artists, that's like the thing that anybody, you know, we don't care about analytics.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. You just want people to like your stuff.
Yeah, you just want people to be, or be like, oh, I see one person actually like, like rocking my song and enjoying it. No, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. If you're out there and you're listening to this.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it's been a lot of cool moments, but I never really get caught up in what I have going on. Like, it's like people will always like either see my house or see whatever, and they're like, oh my God, you're doing so great and all that stuff. But to me, there's levels to it. You know what I mean? Like, there's like, this is cool, but I want to go a lot further than this.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
So people always, are saying, oh, you're so humble, or you're so not phased, but I'm just like, man, I just got so much, I gotta
I love the way you set goals.
Yeah.
I love the way you set goals.
For sure.
Like every single time it seems like you keep topping the charts. Like how are you trying to make an impact now that you've done all these things?
Great question. So now I'm at the point where I've had number ones in like 5 different genres.
Yeah.
So it's a goal of mine. I'm putting this out there. I need a country number one and a Latin number one.
All right.
Those are 2 of my goals.
Is there any genre you won't produce?
No. I mean, I
got a noise rock band.
Oh, really? Yeah, but as long as it's on it, no. But as long as it's like, I really want to see on Billboard charts in as many categories as possible, because I have a number 1 urban, number 1 pop, number 1 rhythmic, number 1 urban AC, and I feel like I'm missing one. But I really want to get like, I want to
cover the ground.
Yeah, I want to cover the ground just to show people how versatile I am.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one thing. But for me, I'm at the point to where I want to discover the artist, and I want to produce whole albums and really create vibes that people can live with and create superstars. You know what I mean? Like we're in this age now where there's so many people coming in, they're here and they're gone. You know what I mean? But I don't know that we're creating music and songs that are helping people have long-lasting careers that they can tour off of for forever.
That's
a
good point.
Yeah,
that's a really good point.
Yeah, I think we're in this kind of microwave. Make the catchiest song you can think of with a dance that goes with it.
Mm-hmm.
Make a label, millions of dollars, and then you're old news.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
it's so fast.
Yeah,
too.
It's fast. So now I'm more so like, let's make something that can last.
Something that has a real impact on the world.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I think that's great, man.
Yeah.
I was just like, you have a real talent for, finding these stars out there. What's your process like for being able to find somebody that you want to work with next?
For me, it's just trying to find somebody that's different. First of all, somebody that's going to stand out, or something that in the industry, or that's missing in the industry. It's a lot harder to be different. You know what I mean? It's a lot harder to come in the game standing out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a longer path, but ultimately, I think you'll have more success in the long run if you're the one setting trends and doing things as opposed to chasing trends. And
truly,
because typically, at least with rap and kind of like a lot of urban music, is like you got to be cool. You got to be really like on trend, right?
Yeah.
But it's really, really hard to just be a trendy person.
It is.
And stay,
It is.
you know what I mean? Because trends change so fast.
Rappers are the new rock stars. Rock stars don't exist anymore.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like you really have to either create something totally different and make that stretch as long as you can, because it's really, really hard to keep adapting, because after a while people are going to see like you're reaching, you know what I mean? You're like, you're not doing something that, you know, is natural to, you know, like, you know, why are you now doing dance moves when you started out as a hardcore rapper or something like that? It's kind of, it's like, it's because of like TikTok and all this stuff. So
people's attention spans.
That's the other thing. It's
way more terrible. Like it's just, like nothing sticks anymore.
Yeah.
Like the
it's really interesting because it's kind of like the way music is consumed now definitely contributes to TikTok. Yeah, TikTok is.
Oh, when I talk to people that run labels, they're like, "Oh yeah, I found my next band
TikTok.
Off TikTok."
Yeah, and so
it's like,
labels are reactive now.
Mm-hmm.
They're not necessarily going out there and finding talent. They're reacting to what's hot on TikTok or what's Instagram. So I'll take the most talented person that can sing her ass off, looks great, can dance her ass off. Make great songs, very personable, take them up there and they'll pass on it because they don't have, you know, they're not verified.
Their numbers or whatever.
They don't have numbers. They do that all the time.
Damn.
They do that all the time. And, you know, I could take...
It's frustrating.
It's really frustrating. So it just kind of forces your hand to like, if you believe in something, to like do it your own way. Like I have my own distribution company. I don't need a label to put stuff out. I think because of technology, you don't have to depend on a label to distribute your stuff. You know what I mean? It's very cheap to distribute. So the power of labels, they're like slowly losing their grip. They always seem to, it's funny though, because because it's such a, you know, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So it's like, you'll see them slipping, but then they'll find a way to like stay on. So because they thought things were over when people were like, you know, pirating or streaming song like Napster. You know, they thought it was over. So now they have like Spotify and they're making a load of money up from all like Spotify, all the DSPs.
Oh,
you know, they're making a ton.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know what I'm saying? They found a way to position themselves to still get that leverage and make crazy profit margins. But the labels that are the artists that are signed to the labels are still signed to these old traditional deals where they're seeing like pennies. It's really sad on what they're doing. So I'm curious to see what happens in this, you know, this NFT world. And you know, and the fact that they're such a reactive, the reactive partners when there's non-traditional ways to get funding to market yourself. So you can partner with brands, you know what I mean? Like if you like Vans and you can, you know, if your music is good and you have a plan, you can partner with Vans and get some funding to shoot a video and to, you know, so it's a lot of that. There's a lot of that stuff going on.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you've seen plenty of people get pretty raw deals.
All the time.
You know?
Yeah.
What is it? A 360 deal?
360 deals. Yeah. I mean, I see both sides of 360 deals because you really invest a lot of time and money into people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if I'm helping you design your merch and producing your merch, and you know what I mean, I should see it cut up. So I see that part of it. Yeah. But it really comes down to the percentages that they're making per, you know, like the stuff like per stream is like 0.0043 cents. And it's really sad on what the people in power now, which are the DSP, Spotify, they're sad what they're doing. But once again, people need to understand that we still have the power. We still can sell stuff off of our own websites. We can You know, I know Kanye is doing this whole STEM player thing. I mean, there's so many different ways. And because of, you know, with analytics, you're able to hone in on who your actual following is and market directly to them. So it's definitely possible.
Options.
Yeah, there's definitely options, and it could be more lucrative in the long run. You just have to have a good team that recognizes it.
Yeah. I mean, you've taken a lot under your own wing, and like you're doing a lot of things on your own. Yeah. You also, I mean, on top of music and everything, you're also doing a documentary.
Yeah. So it's funny. I've always thought my life was somewhat interesting in the fact that I'm an entrepreneur. My wife's an entrepreneur. We have this autistic child who is just it's a challenge, but she's just hilarious. We have, you know, my older child who's an actress who's been in like, you know, movies, and you know, she's a musician herself. So it's sure. On a day-to-day basis, there's so much kind of like, there's so much comedy / life lessons that we go through as a family that I always thought would be cool to document in whatever way. So like, so I had one guy kind of following us around for a while, and you know, just to put it together something. I didn't know exactly what it was, and something happened where he lost all the footage.
What?
Yeah. So that just, so after following us around for like a year or something, something crazy happened. So then I kind of didn't think much about it until I was doing some ad work for this agency, and they just, you know, I was doing something for something they were pitching, and they kind of just saw my life, how I was always on the phone. I'm, you know, juggling, you know, picking up my kids and my wife and doing all these different things. And they saw it as a very interesting piece. So they asked me to follow me around for, you know, like 6 months or stuff like that. So they followed me around and kind of got a chance to see the family dynamic, and came up with this really, really powerful piece. It's like 12 minutes, like a short documentary. And it's called As Long As I Got You. And it really kind of highlights the relationship with my daughter and I, my autistic daughter, and us going to therapies and you know, how she loves music and all these, you know, again, just an overall kind of family dynamic. So yeah, that was something that we finished. Beautiful. Yeah, it is. I'm gonna give you guys a link to it. But
I'd love to check it out.
Yeah, it's something that we did, at this point, like 3 years ago. No, about 2 years ago. And we didn't put it out immediately because we wanted to give it to the film festivals. And so we got a call back from one, but we didn't make it into whatever final thing. So then we were going to start distributing it via maybe Netflix or something like that, because they have shorts. But then COVID happened, and then but we still plan on using that documentary as a piece for one of our other initiatives, which is, you know, this campaign is called Michaela Moving Autism, where we're going to purchase a mobile bus that will go around to low income neighborhoods and help diagnose underprivileged kids, because a lot of times they don't really get access to therapies, and they don't really know where to go. So the bus was going to kind of travel around the city. So it started with that, and that's very much going to happen. But now we've leveled that up even more to a center. We just bought some land up off Memorial, and it's going to be a center for autistic kids and stuff like that. So it's a lot of, as a family, we do a ton of stuff.
That's amazing. You know, I had a guest on the podcast not too long ago, so I should totally connect you.
Yeah, for sure.
Her name's Missy, and she just founded a company called Beaming Health.
Okay.
And their mission is to reimagine autism. So they're wanting to partner with people that are, you know, in the autism movement and all of that. So no, I just thought of that. I'll have to connect you all at some point.
Definitely connect us, for sure.
So for you and your wife, you know, you're both entrepreneurs. What's that like? How do you support each other? And
it's funny because we both wake up and look at each other like, "What are you doing today? What are you doing today?" And we're like, I don't know, we're just hustling. And then we just get up and just go.
I love that.
It's like,
I love that.
Ready, break. And then it's just like nonstop meetings. It's nonstop. I mean, we're meeting with contractors because we're building things. I have a whole set of contractors building the studio. She just finished with contractors building her boutique, to, therapy for my daughter, to it's so many different things that happen in the course of a day. It's just like a blur, but it all gets done. And we try our best to communicate, and we try to give each other our time and our space to work. You know what I mean? So the challenge for me is working during the day, only because I always get called into stuff, like random stuff. Like my son, literally, before you guys got here, he was begging me to bring him Subway for lunch. I'm like, no, I'm not bringing you Subway for lunch. Like, I mean, but it's just nonstop, the dog. It's a nonstop stuff being at home. That's one thing where if I have a place and I'm not as accessible at my studio, it'll definitely help. But it's a lot of push and pull, and just understanding that the person at the end of the day, we're both trying to chase our dreams, and we both align on we both have similar aspirations on building. Like, we built this house. Yeah. We love building things. You know what I mean? So that's a big part of what we have going on in the future. At this point, we're developers now. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Sounds like y'all are a great match.
Yeah. But I'll give her a lot of the credit, because there's a lot of stuff that I just didn't think we would do or have the foresight. Like, see, she picked this land. We purchased this piece of land that we're sitting on now. I mean, years and years ago, after she walked by and said, I always wanted to do this. And I'm like, yeah, we'll never be able to do it. We'll never be able to afford it. Just like we weren't able to afford that house that we ended up buying. And she's like, yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can do it. And then when we end up doing it, I'm like, holy yeah, we did it. So,
well, I won't drop your location, but this is an amazing spot. It's an amazing spot.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. It's gorgeous. I'm like, dang, I want to do the MTV crib.
Yeah, I know, right? Bring that back. Right. Yeah, we're that's all a part of, like, what I really want to do is some kind of reality show, but it has to be done tastefully and stuff like that. So,
I feel you. Yeah. So, I think to kind of close this out, what I usually like to ask is there any advice you'd give to somebody that's maybe in a position that you were in? Yeah. 10 years, whatever, a chunk of time ago, that you'd say, hey, because it's so hard, right?
Yeah, it's hard. So it's very, very hard to become successful in the music industry. I would say more so now than ever, because once again, the technology's allowed so many people to be involved, and so many people look at it as an opportunity to just make money. You know what I mean? But I think the people that win, and I would say you really have to love what you do, and you always would, want to push the genre or whatever you're trying to do forward. Yeah. Because if not, if you're trying to make money, once again, you'll get stuck trying to be trendy, and trends change, and you get kind of phased out relatively quick. But if you're known as somebody that can make radio records or timeless music, then your phone will always ring. Like, I rarely am calling people. I wake up to calls because people know what I kind of bring to the table. But I would just say, chase your dreams. Like, it'll never feel like work if you're literally out there doing what you love. No matter how hard it gets, how much of a struggle it is, it's the best feeling to make a living off of making music that I love. So chase your dreams, be persistent, save your money, trust in God. And if it happened to me, I mean, it could definitely happen. Yeah. So just keep at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to do things you love, but it's probably harder to do things that suck.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. Or I mean, and people think when I say do what you love, it's just like, I'm not saying quit your job immediately and stuff like that, but like put those hours in after you get off of work.
Yeah.
It's just like
you did.
Yeah.
3 a.m.
Oh my God.
Beats.
Yo, I don't sleep. I still don't sleep. Like I don't, there's no time. I don't have time to sleep in and just play video games. Like I'm literally working. And if I'm not working on my career, I'm working on myself. Like I'm trying to work out and stay in shape. And before that, like I don't know how to play keys well. But now I'm like, you know what? I need to learn. So I got a piano teacher teaching me early this morning. So it's like
never getting stagnant.
Yeah, never getting stagnant. You got to evolve and always know that there's another level of and there's somebody out there that's doing exactly what you're doing and working a lot harder than you. So I mean, it's really a competitive thing out here.
Yeah,
man.
No, that's so great. It has been an absolute pleasure getting to talk to you. It was great to meet you.
You as well.
For people that are trying to find you out there, could you, what are your links? Where can they find you?
Instagram is produced by Needlz, but spelled PRODBY Needlz. It's NEEDLZ. Feel free to hit me up there, or artculturegroup.com. That's my label. You'll start to see a lot more stuff with that the company kind of coming up. We got a big announcement. We're just waiting for some things to go through. We got a good partner, someone to partner with for this venture. But I mean, I'm not on Twitter as much, but really just hit me up on Instagram. That's probably the best medium.
Cool.
And I always respond and hit people back.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for coming on.
Thanks,
this is our episode of the Gem series with Needlz. All right. Thanks,
all right, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, that was great.
Thanks,
that was
man.
Great.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Gem series, the podcast for anybody dedicated to investing in themselves. If you would like to see the resources mentioned in this episode, learn more about what we are up to at Rocket Level, or come over and join our team, just click on the links below. Until next time, this is Blake Chapman, and remember to be awesome and do awesome things.